to? Oh, double this sports. What you gonna listen to? Oh, double this sports. Sit back, relax. Vince and Stevie B are gonna break it down about the team from their hometown.
And there he goes, inside the 10, the 5. Oh, the play of the year. That's a jet touchdown. Garrett Wilson strikes.
You gonna laugh, you gonna cry, but these two are ride or die.
61-yard try for the lead. It is Owens. He's got it. He's got it. He's got it. Here is Hall. Shot out of a cannon, and he will score.
They'll take you all the way to the Super Bowl or the exhibition game. Stay with them all the way to the Hall of Fame.
And the AP Most Valuable Player presented by Invisalign is Josh Allen.
Be good, do good. God bless, and go Bills.
Welcome back to another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince. I'm here with my co-host Stevie D. Stevie D. All right, let's say it for what it is. Congratulations, Mr. Josh Allen. I am wearing the Josh Allen jersey in honor of my man getting married, tying the knot this week.
I guess congratulations in order, but
Here we go.
you should get married at the end of your career. Enjoy the spoils of being a professional athlete.
He's not Derek Jeter, okay? He's not Derek
Well, that's
Jeter.
fair. That's fair. He's definitely not Derek Jeter. But
Well, listen,
it's not saying that I'm wrong.
at least he didn't get married October 14th or something like that.
Yeah, well.
Guys,
fair
I'm going to need a couple weeks off. I know we're having a good season. I need a couple weeks off. Got to go get married, honeymoon, all of that. He's doing it during the beginning of minicamp. And guess who shows up to minicamp? The groom-to-be. No, that's dedication. That is dedication. His guys are out there. He's going to be out there. I like it. I like it because we don't see that. You don't see that. These guys are like, hey, I got to take the week, coach. Skip, I got to go. So, but again, congratulations, Josh. I know there's somebody you won't be getting a card from, but that's okay. Hey, that's okay. You have a Hollywood actress, Oscar-nominated Hollywood actress, I think I heard. I was like, really? Haley Steinfeld. I was like, really? I didn't know that. But, hey, way to go, Josh. All right. Proud of you. So, you're checking all the boxes. Now, there's a big box that you need to check. And maybe one below that one. The first box that you need to check is Super Bowl winner, or by way of OW Sports, exhibition game winner, right? And when you win that exhibition game, then that second box you need to check is Super Bowl MVP. By way of OW Sports, Super Bowl MVP. Because once we win the game, if we ever do, then we will lose the moniker of exhibition game. But right now, it's still.
Okay. All right. So that's what it is. Okay. Win.
I got pressured into saying that. People are like, why do you call it an exhibition? There is a legitimate reason to call it an exhibition game. There really is.
You do. You make very valid points. The super long halftime show, everything is delayed. Everything is, commercial based, showmanship, and it's less about the game itself. It's like you said, to quote you some years back when you first brought this up, the championship game is the real game on the AFC and NFC side. Those are the games that count. So
yeah. So
I may have never heard that before.
Just being fair about it, but if I could ever get that ring. Well, CBD mini camps are under.
Yeah, before we get into mini camps, I'm sorry because we're a little bit not good. I just want to give a shout out to the Mafia Den and the Jets hangar. I mean, you want to talk about groups that are booming, right? And we started that 7-8 months ago, and they're really, really taking off. And just kudos to to the fan base of joining those groups and participating, and with all the comments and photos and posts and watching this thing grow. It's pretty special. So I just wanted to give them a kudos as we start. I forgot last week to do that, and want to make sure we got that out today.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you for reminding. So we're not in dog days, right? I guess that's the end of June, beginning of July till the end of July. That's the true dog days. And we do have some shows, some exciting shows coming up that we're going to want to go ahead and kind of get some viewer and user and fan participation in. We are going to have our annual Hall of Fame debate. Our Hall of Fame debate. I'm just going to let you in. OW Sports primarily, Bills Mafia, Jets Hanger. We talk about the NFL, but when we do our Hall of Fame debate, it includes the MLB, not as much NBA and NHL, right? That I actually, Stevie D, I think they have it almost right. Almost. They include all aspects of sports, right?
Yep.
Or of leagues, I should say, right? When you start looking at the NHL, you have the leagues over in Russia, you have the American League, just all over. When you talk about the NBA, they have the European game, they have the South American game, not only NBA, they have the women as well, right? That come into them. When you look at Major League Baseball and you look at the NFL, like, how do you guys screw this up? It's so easy, and we're gonna debate this, and it's not much of a debate because Stevie D and we see eye to eye, do we not?
Oh, we do. And actually, we have a lot of people that see eye to eye. I thought you coined, and now I hear it everywhere, the Hall of Very Good versus the Hall of Fame. And I think people get confused between the two, right? It's okay to be in the Hall of Very Good. There's nothing wrong with that. You had a very good professional career. You're just not that next tier. And I think there's confusion of the Hall of Very Good versus the Hall of Fame, and having that delineation. There has to be a clear delineation between the Hall of Very Good versus the Hall of Fame. And right now we're not. It's kind of like this, right? Not like this. And I think that's where we're a little bit turned upside down.
So, boy, I'm tiptoeing around this. I'm ready to just jump in the deep end on this one, Stevie D. But I'll talk about this more later. I really have come to grips with a plan for the Hall of Fame. And that is that it is not static for the upper echelon. The game evolves, the game changes, right? Athletes' bodies change, the speed of the game is different, right? If I take a guy that's playing in 2025 and I put him in the game in 1950, he's going to be, and I could take an average player, he's going to be dominant, right? So the game changes. It doesn't mean that you weren't special for your era, right? And so what happens is that after a period of time, if somebody surpasses you, you set the criteria. If somebody surpasses you, they go into what we would deem the platinum level of the Hall of Fame, right? And there's only a couple players that you would have in that platinum level. Maybe, excuse me, 5 quarterbacks or less, 3 to 5 quarterbacks, 3 to 5 running backs, and you go down the line, right? And that's it. Everybody else, no disrespect, but you come down a level, and you're in kind of gin pop. Right?
So are you talking about within the Hall of Fame, you having these levels? You're
Yes.
still a Hall of Famer. It's just that you have the platinum, gold, silver, bronze. Gotcha.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I was following along.
Yes. And so, you can go and you can look and you be like, wow. And there may be a certain guy, a certain athlete, a Jim Brown, as an example. I don't care what you say. It is very, very difficult for anybody to supplant Jim Brown.
He's my number one running back of all time.
And so you could have a guy like an Earl Campbell or even an OJ Simpson. Love OJ, obviously Bill. He was the first to reach 2,000 yards, but now 2,000 yards is common. You could debate 14 versus 16 or 17 games, or you could debate that. But we've seen guys that have done the same, if not better, right? Being multifaceted in doing the same thing. And so now all of a sudden those numbers start to come down and another player rises. Doesn't mean that you take OJ out. He just goes into, as I call it, gin pop, and probably not the right term for OJ to talk about gin pop and OJ in the same term. Need to be careful. No disrespect, OJ. Right? I got your jersey over here. But he just goes into the other group where he would have his bust. But in that top level, right, you strive to be in that top level. You strive to be there as long as Jim Brown would be there. Right now, that would be what, almost 50 years later that Jim Brown would be at that top level. But one day, there's going to be guys that will do equal or exceed what Jim Brown did, and he would just come down. That way, you have a delineation between the groups. I think that would be more palatable. And then I could see a Terrell Davis going into the Hall of Fame and say,
You're the Bronze Star.
yeah, yeah, he would be in the entryway as you walked in. Oh, there's Terrell Davis, and then you keep going, right? He would be there, but he wouldn't be in that top.
I
I
love how you framed that. He'd be right in the entryway.
in a sign outside, right? Enter Terrell Davis, Hall of Fame. But it's so hard to even think that you could have a bust of Terrell Davis sitting next to a bust of Jim Brown. They just don't go together. They say which one of these things does not fit Terrell Davis all day long. And I got in a debate with a guy, and it wasn't really a debate. We were just having a conversation. He's like, "Oh, I can tell you why Terrell Davis." Oh, okay, and I can tell you why not. Right? We can't have the same conversation on Jim Brown. I can tell you why Jim Brown. Yeah, I can tell you why Jim Brown. Right? They
Right.
just go. So it's going to be it'll be fun to have that show. We do it once a year. We go back and forth, but more often than not, we're aligned on the same page.
We are. We are. Same thing with baseball. It's a joke on the baseball side where writers can just, well, I'm not going to vote for him because you know what? He's going to get the 75%, so I'm not going to vote for him so I can use my vote over here. No, you're taking, for me, you're taking away what is right for that individual to make the Hall of Fame. That means that you're cementing that you believe that person's a Hall of Famer. And I don't like the way baseball does it.
Who was it that didn't receive a vote because they knew he was going to go in the Hall of Fame and he would have gone in unanimous?
Oh man, I'm embarrassed to not remember that name, but yes, and I forget how many years ago it was, but yeah, he fell one
Was
vote
it was
shy.
it was it Griffey? Did Griffey go in unanimous?
Only one has, right? It's Mo Rivera, right? So Jeter missed it by one. You know, I don't know what Griffey was. Griffey was high, right? Ripken was high. Um, I don't know their percentages, but I mean, 97%. I mean, how does Griffey get 97? I mean, when you have those no doubt abouters, they all should be 100%. It's just, and to me, to not recognize, since we're using Ken Griffey Jr. as an example, every panelist to say that Ken Griffey Jr. is now a Hall of Famer because you didn't vote because you thought somebody, don't worry, he was going to get to 75. You should lose your right. You should lose your right as a voter because that's like the common sense vote. Like it's a no doubter, right? And through the history of the game, to say Mariano Rivera is the only one is so disrespectful to so many Hall of Fame. It's like Ricky Henderson, right? The late great Ricky Henderson. To say that he wasn't a Hall of Famer and he didn't get in 100%, how he revolutionized the game. Oh, and by the way, he had the walks, the run scored, the stolen bases, the leadoff home runs to start a game, 200 plus, 250 plus home runs in his career, 300 plus, like all of this stuff that in the game of the sports, he was top 5 in so many categories. And the people not to vote for him is beyond comprehension to me. Beyond. So it is a very passionate subject about the Hall of Fame, of how these two sports cannot get it right. And I'm not pouring salt on the wounds here, right? Because I'm with you. I believe this guy should be in the Hall of Fame because when you revolutionize a position, I didn't see Tasker get into the Hall of Fame. Did I miss something?
So,
because I thought he got in. There was all this noise that he got in.
I've been lucky in trying to research that because I have heard where he's received congratulations. Now, first of all, he's not going in the normal standard Hall of Fame vote. He would be going in in the senior.
Like a Glecko went in.
Yes.
Right? Senior committee or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I heard that he got in. I've seen articles that he has gotten in, but then I've seen articles contrary to that. Again, I don't know. Steve Tasker, obviously you do watch the podcast. If you can let us know, Vince C at owsports.net, just shoot me a quick note. Yes, I got in, blah, blah, blah. I'd appreciate it because we've been championing Tasker getting in, and you're right. When you revolutionize the way the game is played, that's what they wanted to say about LT. Then we know LT was 100% unanimous, no doubter. But they said LT revolutionized the position. Okay, sure. So did Steve Tasker. And don't give me Billy Bates. I don't want to hear it. Right? The true definition of what the special teamer is and how the game is played today and the positions that are allocated for a special teamer goes back to Steve Tasker. So,
yeah.
But Stevie D, it's the most wonderful time of the year, right? These guys are putting pads on, and they're actually not going against air or against shadows or anything else. You're actually going against somebody else. You can see some of the skills. That is minicamp. With minicamp comes mandatory versus not mandatory. So many rules in the NFL, right? You can do this, but you can't do that. You can push, but you can't pull, right? You got all of that. Let's just look at some other teams first. Let's talk about the Jets. 100% participation, you told me.
Yes, 100%.
There you go. There you go. That's what you want, especially with the new head coach.
Yep.
A new regime.
Yeah. Aaron Glenn was very happy. He said that changing a culture and organization is not always the easiest thing to do, but the players are buying into what he's selling, and he's very excited to see everybody there to participate. And for me, and Jet fans know this, that over the last few years, obviously with Aaron Rodgers, the last couple of years, right, and under Saleh's watch for 4 years, there's been a lot of noise at when Jets drive, right, in Forum Park, right? This is getting out about this player. This is getting out about that player. And now with Aaron Glenn, I don't know if folks know about this, but Aaron Glenn came in with Moogie. They sat down with Woody Johnson saying we need to make organizational change across the board. They offered packages to 150 employees to walk out the door, trying to get the leaks out of the building. And so it started with support staff all the way to the coaching staff. It's like a whole new building there. And to really not hear leaks here or there this late, it's odd to be a Jet fan and not hear stories here, this or that. So that's really cool change within the Jets organization because we haven't had that in a very long time, right? You had the cross-eyed guy, Adam Gase, right? That guy with the crazy eyes, right? I mean, maybe not cross-eyed, maybe just had crazy eyes, that guy, right? And you had Saleh, you had him for 2 years, you had Saleh for 4. So really, when you think about the last 6 years, it's been a debacle as far as holding things in the building. And when that stuff gets out, it it's never a good sign, right?
I smile because I think you're in good shape because people know that the package could be coming their way any day with that pink slip in it.
Yeah.
So I need to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? Because I don't think Aaron Glenn's going to tolerate any of that. I think he's had very quite frank conversations one on one with his superstar players, talking about leadership, talking about what happens here stays here, right? And then addressed it as a team. And so far so good. And it's just like any mini camp, right? Every play looks great. How many throws did I watch Justin Fields make? That looks perfect, right? Of course, it's OTAs, right?
He's going to throw for 5,000.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, the optimism. Look, the Jets. Look what they're doing, right? So at the end of the day, it's nice to see that there's no noise breaking through the walls. And so again, a great start for Aaron Glenn, the Aaron Glenn era, as far as that is concerned, right? Obviously, scheme, play, health, discipline, accountability. We'll see that come September once they hit the field for real. So, but it's exciting. I just wish in the Jets mailbag of things, and I think you and I talked about this the other day, as we talk so often, is where's the contracts for Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson? Why is it taking so much time? Like, why is you have your homegrown talent? They've put up numbers. I thought Sauce wasn't as good last year, but there was a lot of things that were going on probably that maybe he was distracted in. But why can't we get these deals done? Mind blowing to me that we cannot figure that piece out. I mean, Jermaine Johnson, I understand, is going to be a little bit down the road because he's coming off the Achilles. Brees Hall's not going to get a new contract. I understand that, but take care of Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, because if you take care of those two, the stud on the offense, the stud on the defense, it goes through the locker room that the Jets are committed to securing the young players long term. And when that starts breaking through the clubhouse, it's just people get more energized. And if you look at teams like the Buffalo Bills, and you look at, again, winning programs, the Buffalo Bills, the Philadelphia Eagles, they have shown they have taken care of their players. Some points to the 49ers have taken care of players through the years where they rewarded the contracts. The Jets don't do that with young players. We kind of get them so upset that they want to leave. So if you want to build a winning program, a winning culture, take care of the players that need to be take care of. Stop procrastinating. It's only going to cost you more money and more angst throughout the building. Get the deals done.
I don't know if you can put the 49ers in that basket.
Well, because then they started trading some players, right? But when you think of
but
you paid.
You also play games with Deebo Samuels, Brandon Ayuk,
Well,
Brock Purdy.
Debo got paid already on one contract. They paid him on one contract. They paid Brock Purdy. They paid Bosa. They paid Kittle. They paid what's his name on the defense? Fred Warner got two contracts.
That's this year. That's this year that they actually did what they were supposed to do. Think about what they did with Brandon Ayuk last year.
Right, Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams, they balked at. But all I'm saying is that they've shown that they have given up, because Debo did get paid.
I'm not disputing that they haven't gotten paid, but they have kind of followed the Jerry Jones playbook to kind of what you were saying, get it done and get it done early so that you don't pay more later.
Right. And that's a great point on the Cowboys, right? Because that's what the Jets are, right? Like, what are we doing here? Why are we waiting? To me, that whole Dak CD debacle last year derailed the whole season. I think it just deflated the whole team. And Mike is probably saying to himself, oh, I guess I'm going to be next in this whole scenario. I just think it deflated the whole team, and the Cowboys were what they were because of that. And if you don't think that happens in a clubhouse, I'm not in an NFL locker room, but that gets around saying, oh, I guess I'm never going to get paid. Mm-hmm. Right? So, and it spreads like wildfire. Again, we've seen that with the Jets organization, disgruntled players. So look at what you guys did this offseason. I thought was brilliant. You secured quite a few young players with longer-term contracts and got it done. Like, is it Benford, the corner, who was the 6th rounder? I mean, he got paid. They recognized his talent as a 6th-round pick and said, "We're not messing around. We're getting this deal done. Are you happy with the deal, Benford? Yes. Bills are happy. Boom, got it done. Jets, no, we don't do that. I like Michael Carter in the slot, and he didn't deserve to get paid money. But I got Sauce Gardner now that's available to get money. That's the guy I need to pay. He was the early round pick. Get it done. Garrett Wilson, 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, 100 catches last year. What are we waiting on? Get the deal done. You know where he's slotted. It's going to be towards the top. He's not better than Justin Jefferson, but he's going to get paid. We talked about this, right? It's just the cycle of life. That next guy gets paid is always going to trump the other guys. So when Justin Jefferson's ready to get paid again, he's going to go with it. And that's just the way it works. And so just get it done because it just costs you more money.
It is. You made reference to the Buffalo Bills and what they've done. Stevie D, sometimes doing the right thing ends up biting you a little bit. I'm a big Dawson Knox fan. I really am. And I'm a Dawson Knox fan for his toughness, his machismo, right? The stiff arms that he's laid out on the sidelines, lower in the shoulder. But at the end of the day, is Dawson Knox a top tier salary tight end? No. But the Bills saw something where he flashed early and they said, let's lock him up. Let's get him done long term. What did that equal? That equaled you drafting Kincaid to be the number one pass catcher. And you're paying this guy, Dawson Knox, to do this. So sometimes it can bite you. You have to have, you got to take the risk, right? That's for sure. But you have to make smart decisions when you go out there. You can't just throw the money all around.
Yes.
To your point, the Benford, he's played and exceeded the contract. He probably did that coming out of training camp. He got a 6th-round pick, and all of a sudden he's in the opening day lineup, and you have your number one pick that's sitting on the bench, right? It just, again, one of these things does not belong. What doesn't belong? The 6th-rounder starting, right?
Right.
They also took care of Khalil Shakir. Again, get it done and got it done early, right? And so those are good things. And yes, but
Didn't Bernard get paid? Didn't they take care of Bernard too?
They did. And so, they've done some things this offseason. Most notably, you can talk about all the signings you want. Right? We can talk Trey White, Dane Jackson, Benford, Shakir. We can go down that list. But most notably, what Brandon Beane did this offseason was the restructure of Matt Milano's contract. That's the big one. That's the one where Bills Mafia, Bills fans, NFL fans should take note, right? Here's a guy, love him to death, right? You could tell that if you cut him open, he's bleeding red, white, and blue, right? You just know that. He is definitely a Bill. But the unfortunate thing about this game that we love is that injuries happen. And for some guys, injuries just don't stop happening. And it seems like that's what happened with Matt Milano, right? It's just one injury after another, half season's gone. And when he plays, you could see, how much he brings to the team, the knowledge, his athleticism, everything he brings. But now all of a sudden, whether it's him being reacclimated to the game after being away for so long, or maybe his body is just not responding as the younger Matt Milano, you have to make those tough decisions. And the decision they made, basically, Stevie D, was we're going to kind of prepay you, if you will, for those extra years that we have, and we're going to reduce this contract down to a 1-year deal, right? And so, in essence, this is his last year under this contract. I'm not going to say his last year as a Bill, but his last year under this contract. And maybe there's a handshake agreement, a hush-hush, right? We're going to re-sign you, but we need you to come in at a lower cap dollar so that we can either, bring in your heir apparent or kind of cover us just in case you have another injury, right? I'd love to see him play all the way out. So there are some moves of signing and then there's some other GM moves that you make. And we see the Eagles do this all the time, right? Maybe not exactly what happened with Milano, but ways to kind of finagle in the future. They see the future and they make those moves early.
I don't know how Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles, is able to do it. He's got so many big time players on that roster, and he's able to keep them and keep making that magic work. It you some you did
We know something. That
well,
taxes and the Eagles are going to pay at some point.
well, yes, but if their championship run is over, now I know the fans don't like to hear that, but if they get 2 or 3 championships during that run, or they're in X amount of Super Bowls, as a fan base, you know what? I'll take that, right?
100%.
I'll take, because they already got 1 championship. I mean, they got 2 in 8 years or 9 years, right?
Yep.
2016 and last year, and they still got plenty of players on the contract. So if you're able to get one more or another Super Bowl appearance, you could say, hey, on the high, we've been to 4 Super Bowls, won 2. Let's just making up numbers. Let's say they went to another Super Bowl and they lost. You would have 2 titles, 2 Super Bowl losses in 9 years, and you're saying, I'll sign up for that all day long.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll pay that price, because we've seen teams get out of cap purgatory in a year. Right. Take the one hit in the 1 year and move on and write it off. And maybe they're going to be able to,
So
navigate
this was not the direction the show was headed.
that. No, it wasn't.
But let me throw something back your way.
Okay.
If you're a GM, do you plan in 4-year increments? Meaning, I draft my quarterback in year 1 and I give him 4 years, maybe 5, because I get the 5th year, and then I wash my hands of him, let him go, do whatever, unless he's the second coming of Jim Kelly, not of that other number 12. We'll never say that name, but he's the second coming, right? If he is, then you say, okay, we got to pay the 60, 70, 80 million dollars. But if he's been a solid quarterback, right? He's top 10. He's just not top 3, but he's top 10. Do you say, and do you have the foresight to look at what's coming out of high school, what's coming in college, and saying, okay, we got these guys on our board. That's who we're targeting. And because if you do that financially, you will be able to put A-plus players on that offensive line, on the defensive line, at the running back. You'll have the money. I'm not investing $60 million into a quarterback that's going to leave me cash strapped.
Wow. Right. Because do I think teams are looking at that? I don't know if they are. I think it takes a strong GM with an understanding owner, that when you sit down and carve that out, because you're making really good points. Because look, in the history of the league, I'm not saying it hasn't happened, where a top 15 quarterback has won a Super Bowl. You can talk about Brad Johnson. You can talk about Trent Dilfer. You can talk about, I'm sure there's other quarterbacks that were middle of the pack, during that football season, right? And say you won one. It's really hard to win a Super Bowl without having at least a top 10 quarterback, maybe a top 8 quarterback. It's what we've seen over the last, 10, 12 years. It's really, you got to be in the upper echelon to have the top quarterback. It's an interesting point of saying, I draft this kid, we develop him. Yeah, we're winning games. We're winning 10 games. We're winning 11 games, whatever. We're making the playoffs, but we're getting bounced in that first round. We can't get over the top. It's like the Bucks realizing, I got to move on from Dungy. The Eagles saying, I got to move on from Andy Reid because I don't feel like we can get over the hump, right, with Philadelphia. At what point do you say that? To your point, I mean, I think this is what your point is talking about. At what point do you say, I need to cut bait, let him go, I'll get a compensatory pick or whatever, or I trade him, whatever the case may be, and then I start all over again. and reset that position cap because that's the most expensive position on the field. It's really good food for thought. That is really good food for thought. But I do think as a GM, you have to be strong in your convictions with your owner to be on the same page. Because if you're not, it won't work. It won't work.
I'll do you one better to that, right? Because not only do you have the ability to trade, right? Not only do you kind of have a invest all your money in your scouting department, but what are we seeing in the league these days? You have Pat Mahomes lead his team early in his career. Technically it was his second season, but the first season really didn't count. We had Jaden Daniels make a long run. We saw the same thing from CJ Stroud, even though he failed his sophomore year, but we saw the same thing. You're starting to see the young quarterback that we always said, you got to sit them for the first 16 games. We always said, you got to sit them for the first 8 games. Let the game develop. Let them get the speed of the game before we're ready to put them in. Now we're putting them in week 1, game 1, opening kickoff. They're out there to lead that team. If these
What's the difference?
Go ahead.
What's the difference between Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud? Don't laugh when I say this, okay? Because it's going to sound like you're trying to punk me. You take those two quarterbacks, great. I mean, Jaden Daniels, what he's done with Washington, right? The guy just won every game under 60 seconds. He was calm and cool, led his team, right? That's a special player right there. But CJ won his division twice, went to the playoffs twice. But what's the difference between them and a Zach Wilson and a Sam Darnold?
Well,
and I know Sam has come on better.
It's coaching.
Coaching, but they started 1 year in college. How many years did Jaden Daniels start? And I think those guys that come in day one and start, that have played 3 to 4 years of college, starting in the college level, I think have a better grasp of the speed of the game and have seen a lot more football than these kids that come out because, yes, they've been in college, but they only started 1 year and it's their junior year. They had this great year and they come out and all of a sudden, okay, you're coming. I'm going to use my own team, the Jets, and say, oh, we're 2-14, but Zach, you're a 1 year starter. We're going to give you and put you out there. Again, coaching has a lot to do with it, which we've shown that we failed. But I do like these quarterbacks that have years of starting experience, the maturity level, standing in front of cameras in post games, even in the college level. You're at a big time program, getting that experience because in the NFL, it's going to be a lot more cameras in the NFL, a lot more attention to you. And so I do think that helps the young quarterback, the experienced quarterback that can come in day one, give me those years of experience. And I hope teams recognize that. And I don't want to penalize these young kids coming out, but as a Jet fan, man, have we failed miserably, right? Mark Sanchez, people, wow, he went to the AFC Championship. That defense and that running game brought him to the championship games those 2 years. Outside of that, Mark fell on his face, right? 1 year started at USC, fell on his face. Sam Darnold, again, Jets let him down, 1 year starter, USC. Zach Wilson, very immature, 1 year starter, and it didn't work out. Again, our franchise has to take ownership, right, from the owner all the way down, mentoring and giving the tools to this young kid to succeed. We haven't done that, but I think with Jaden and CJ are really great examples of kids that have started at least 3 years in college, come into the NFL, and are ready to go. And they have taken it by storm. I mean, this Jaden Daniels kid is just unbelievable.
So we're going to head down a path, and maybe there's some folks that are really tied into the college game who I'd love to have in this conversation, because the way college football is set up now, if you are in, you have to be more than a Power Five. You have got to be elite Power Five, right? So you're talking your Alabamas, your Clemsons, your Georgias. It's a small group. But even there, they face the transfer portal. They face NIL, right? You had the kid from Tennessee. Tennessee's, a historic program for college football coming out of the SEC, and you have a kid that ends up transferring out because he wants to call his shot, and they called the shot on him, right? You have these guys that um, just hop from team to team, right? And I hear what you're saying. Part of what you're saying that is going to be lost now in this college game is what happens during the off season of college football. There's maturation in there. You talked about guys coming up to the podium, right? Well, there's also leadership. There's leadership amongst your teammates. But if I'm flopping from school to school to school, I haven't established that bond with the receivers or the offensive linemen. I can't tell these guys, hey guys, let's wake up, let's go to the gym. I can't tell my receivers, let's go to the field and just throw the ball around. Non-sanctioned, right? Because there's rules in the NCAA, non-sanctioned workouts, right? But it's the camaraderie. It's building that. Something that then transfers to the NFL as a leader, right? We're talking a leadership position. So I think there's more that goes into it, what you're talking about, more than just being that 1 year starter, right? You have to have continuity with that school, right? I
Sure.
could be a 2 year starter. Well, we saw it with Dylan Gabriel, right? We've seen where you go from school to school to school. All right, well, yeah, you played 3 years. Does that make you any better? Well, you may have seen game time, but what have you lost as far as film time, camaraderie, leadership, all of those intangibles that makes you that top level quarterback? At the end of the day, though, Stevie D, in order for this to work, you have get like you said, you have to have a GM with stones, but you also have to have a great front office, great scouting at every level. Now, don't just scout in college, you need to go scout high school, right? Because you want to watch this kid that you think has the potential and watch him go through. You have to scout in not just the FBS, but the FCS and in all of them, NAIA, where you have to find these kids. If you get to NAIA, your likelihood of having a guy that's a 3 or 4 year starter is going to be very high, right? If you go to, I look at the University of Buffalo. University of Buffalo is not a top tier NCAA school. So if a guy has a great season, he's hitting that portal because there is a mid tier to higher school that's looking to rip him off the UB roster. You just become a farm team for those top schools. So, maybe you go a little lower and you get a guy that's really played really well. Maybe 2 years as a JUCO. I don't know. It's an idea to throw out, but really it's predicated upon the front office and the general manager and the scouts. Go ahead.
Really, it is an interesting perspective, right? An interesting perspective of saying, hey, at the end of 4 years or 5 years, I really don't see it with this guy. Let's let him walk, and we'll get a compensatory or whatever the case may be, or we trade him, which probably harder to do, um, unless you do it before the draft, and reset that position. Because it's an interesting topic. I don't know if there's a GM that's got the guts to do it, and the fan base is going to get pissed off because, yeah, you got rid of my quarterback. He was the 13th best in the league. Now you want me to go back with a rookie? Like, we were just about to make our push, right? Because every fan base, we're just
Sure.
about to do it, right? And we've seen it over and over. Maybe not your team, not the Buffalo Bills, but I'm saying as a fan, maybe not your team has done this, but very rarely does a team with that level quarterback make that push upward into a Super Bowl, or maybe you get to a. We saw that with what was it, the Titans with Tannehill? 'Cause, you know, I look at the University of Buffalo, and I say, hey, you got rid of my quarterback. He was the 13th best in the league. Now you want me to go back with a rookie? Like, we were just about to do it, right? And we've seen it over and over. Maybe not your team, not the Buffalo Bills, but I'm saying as a fan, maybe not your team has done this, but very rarely does a team with that level quarterback make that push upward into a Super Bowl, or maybe you get to a. We saw that with what was it, the right? Make it with the Titans against the Chiefs in the title game because of Derrick Henry, right? They were never to be seen again, right? They got there and then there was gone. Very rarely do you get there with a quarterback that is not in the top 10. And if you have a middle of the pack, man, it really brings the question: do we cut bait? I'm not looking to save that money, but allows me to reposition that money for linemen, like you said, or invest in some of your defensive guys so they don't have to walk. And you got to have good scouts, and you can't miss, because if you miss, the fans are going to be really hard on you, and then the owner's going to maybe.
But
go against them.
what are you missing on? That's the question. Because man, I'd love to do this. I would love if we could configure AI to simulate like a 10-year span. I would love to see that, because the way that I envision this happening, right, is I come forward and I tell my owner that the market says that a quarterback is getting paid $60 million. We're going to draft this guy. We have a high draft pick, top 10. We'll move up. We're going to get a guy that's going to be, who's going to be a top 10 pick. Means that he's got a chance to really do something in theory. We've seen the highs and lows, right? But in theory, I have a great scouting staff that has checked this guy. He's clean. He has everything that we want. Okay. We put him into play. Maybe he just doesn't reach that upper echelon. We talk about the Platinum Hall of Fame, but he's a guy that may end up in the Hall of Very Good, right? Ben Roethlisberger, maybe, right? Somebody like that.
Never got this name.
But you say, okay, I have this guy, and over the course of 5 years, I am going to save upwards of $100 million, if not more, right? By drafting this guy here. In turn, I could take that $100 million and I can have the premier offensive line. I will be able to get a premier running back. I will be able to get stud wide receivers, plus the extra money that I have.
Right.
And so now,
Right, because you're still going to have all this cap space just in general. Right.
So now I let this kid come in and play. He's got everything around him. What do we say? For a quarterback to be successful, you got to have an offensive line. Well, I gave it to you. For a quarterback to be successful, you got to have a good running game. Well, I gave you that. Okay. You have to have good wide receivers. Excellent. I gave you that. You have all the tools to be successful, and you're good, right? And the team is going to be successful because you have basically all those weapons. You start out and you say 9-8. So now you're plus or minus 2 or 3 to get you into the playoffs. He'll be able to get you those 2 or 3. What do you do? Right? I'm able to ride that and hopefully be able to ride that to a championship. But then I say after the 4th year, I'm ready to kind of reset, because now my linemen's contracts are coming due, right? And my receivers and running back. And I say, I'm going to trade this guy. I get a boatload of picks. I'm able to take those picks, come right back into that next draft, and I'm drafting, 1 through 5, and I get another guy. Just as good, maybe better. I have the money to reinvest in my line, maybe get a top tier free agent, and I rinse and repeat. I venture to say, Stevie D, that I will never be below 9-8. Never. And if the guy that I bring in is a colossal failure, a bust, and you can tell early, I have a decent backup, because I have money to go get a decent backup that's going to be able to steady the ship and keep me above 9-8.
Because you have all the studs around to support that backup.
Even a Daniel Jones can't fail in that situation, and that is saying a lot. That I know, I see the look. It's almost bulletproof. It really is almost bulletproof.
It is an interesting concept, and like you said, if you nail the quarterback position, then he's there for 15, 18 years, right? As long as they're
Right.
healthy.
Right.
If you
That's
nail
right.
it, right? If you get that generational talent that proves it, then you're wrong. Because if you truly have that generational talent, truly do, and you talk to them at that level in the office and saying, look, Vince, we're going to pay you. Like, we can't pay you what you're worth because we got to field the team. And we see it with quarterbacks redo their contracts. They still get their money. It's just a little bit different,
Yep.
right? And it gives the team the cap relief they need to go sign some players. So when you have that generational talent, those guys want to win. They want to win Super Bowls. When you're at that echelon, they want to cement a legacy, and they're willing to reposition their dollars. Because if you think Tom Brady, not you, but if people think that Tom Brady didn't get paid every penny he was worth, you're a fool. He didn't leave money on the table. He just redid contracts to free up money. But he got every bit of what he was worth. Don't let anybody fool you. He got paid. He just did everything in smaller contracts where these players today are doing six-year contracts. So it looks like a very big number. He got his money. It was just a little bit different than the way it's been like it's doing right now traditionally with the long-term deals. I think it's a really good concept and be interesting as the GMs who listen to the show say, right, is there something to that?
Well, I will say two things I have to say. First and foremost, I am not advocating for my Bills to get rid of Josh
Right.
Allen.
Right.
Josh is in that whole other category.
That generational talent category.
Stays for it. So please don't misconstrue what I just said. But the other thing, though, Stevie D, more than anything, what we just talked about goes against any traditions, goes against any logical thinking that the GMs have today, which means they would listen to what we said and they would say, oh, you can't do that. They would dismiss it all day. It would take one of these top flight young Turk type GMs coming in at age 29, dare I say, the number guys. It would take one of those guys, right? One of those guys that live off of the computer in the metrics and go through all that and say, well, as you can see, his potential, growth is 7 years. We've given him 5. We're going to lose 2, and then 3 on the back end. So yes, let's do it. They would be able to kind of get something like that going. And if it worked, you're off and running.
Yeah, like I thought the shifting sports. I thought Billy Bean in the Moneyball movie, right, and what he did in Oakland, knowing that his owner was so cheap, because baseball, especially then, really didn't have a salary cap. They don't have a salary cap. They have a luxury tax. So how does the A's, who draw 5,000 fans a game, how can they compete with the guys like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, right? All those teams that are spending crazy money, the Mets. And he brought in a guy that explained it to him. Well, why wouldn't you get a team full of guys that have an on base percentage of 40%? Because you're going to score X amount of runs because they're on base 40% of the time, right? I look at GMs today. I says you're crazy. Why are you looking for the home run and don't care about a strikeout? Give me a guy that can hit to all fields. What are we doing here? And so I think there's places for those type guys. And if you have a smart enough to GM that say, yeah, that makes kind of sense. I'm not talking about in the game when Blake Snell is throwing a one hitter through 7 innings and Kevin Cash comes out against the Dodgers and takes him out because the analytics say, well, he's going through the third, maybe fourth. Sure.
And Kevin Cash, because of that stupid, idiotic decision, you lost a Rays fan.
Yeah, horrible. I remember talking to you that night. I told you it's the last time Blake Snell will throw a pitch for the Tampa Bay Rays.
You did say that. And
That same very night. And well, what do you mean? I says, he's not going to want to play for that. He's tearing up the clubhouse right now saying, how do you take me out with a one hitter through 7 innings? We're up 1-0. I'm dealing. These guys can't figure me out.
Did you have cameras in there like the Houston Astros?
Well,
Because that's exactly what happened. I mean, we're talking, and while we're talking, that's happening.
Yeah, it's a shame, and so but there's a time and place for things. I think in a game, teams rely on the paperwork too much instead of the field. But if I was building a baseball team, I'm looking at the money. Now you take a team like the Yankees, and I take that concept, and I'm filling out a roster of hitters that can hit it all over the place. With that payroll that the owner's giving you, I could create a monster team that can hit the ball all over the field.
Just okay. We do need to move on, but you said something that made me think, right? So just imagine if from a hitter fielding perspective, you were to follow Moneyball or even the Tampa Bay Rays. You have positional players, and better than the Rays, because you'd have positional players that are, really able to put the bat on the ball. They have the on base percentage that you're looking at. You're scoring 4 or 5 runs a game, which is probably 3 runs too many, because that money that you save, could you imagine the 5-man rotation? Could you imagine the 8-man bullpen? Could you imagine the closer that you would be able to funnel all that money to? Could you imagine what you would put out on the diamond? You'd have guys that you'd look at it. It's an all-star lineup, 1 through 5, as far as your pitching rotation. And if the pitcher comes out, you're bringing in the best setup and relievers in the game. And then to close the game, you have the best closer. And he probably swaps with the setup man, because you got the 2 best. Because you have all this money in New York. In New York, you have all this money. CBD. Cashman needs to watch out.
It's silly. Teams that have a lot of money to spend, that they don't go back and look at that simple concept of finding hitters. And if I was in the minor leagues and I'm signing kids out of high school or college,
look behind you.
Oklahoma City 23-9. I take it you were rooting for the Timberwolves.
Kinda.
Don't get me going on your team.
We can't. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
But if I'm a G, I'm just looking at it and saying, give me from the minor leagues all the way up. We have to train our hitters to hit all over the field, right? Stop this launch angle, home run or strikeout mentality. And if you can build an organization that teaches your young hitters to go all fields, you're going to find a diamond in the rough, that you're going to find that stud. Because to me, you get rid of the shift, because they still shift you, right? And shortstops can play literally like just on the other side of the second base, on their side of the field. But if I can hit it at all fields, go ahead and do that. I'm going to put it in that hole between short and third, right? Get like that Tony Gwynn, that Wade Boggs type hitter, right? Give me those guys all day. I don't need a guy to hit 50 home runs. I will have a guy that can do that on the roster, right? But if you give me 5 guys that can spray the ball all around the field, you're going to score tons of runs.
And give me a guy that can bunt. Can I hit somebody that knows the art of bunting? Whole nother show.
Well, you won't find that on the Westminster baseball team. I can tell you that right now.
Whoa.
We cannot bunt. We cannot bunt. I'm going to take this team and put them on my back and say, hey, we're going to bunting school, baby. Let's go.
Whoa.
It's a dying art, though, right? It's even a dying art. On teams that rely on bunts in key situations, even at the collegiate level, and you can't get the bunt down, and you are doing that a lot during the course of a year, that's a problem. And it's just, people don't practice it because it's not sexy.
Exactly.
The bunt's not sexy. But let me tell you, give me that runner up 90 feet with less than 2 out. I'll take that all day. Just don't do it.
So Stevie D, we again, it's a good thing that we do not have the topics of the show listed, because I think we only got to the first one, and there's like 5 others, and now we're running out of time. So,
but in fairness, this is what we do, though, right? So
it is.
Part,
It is.
right?
What?
We
Welcome
just
to
talk
the
sport.
Welcome to the world of Stevie D and Vince. One thing that we did want to talk about, Kirk Cousins.
No show, baby.
Yo, Kirk, where are you? Hey, did your feelings get hurt?
Yes, he did.
Is that
Yes,
what's
he did.
going on? You
Yeah,
want
because
some
I
of that?
didn't hear that he got locked out. Like they locked him out of the building. Right? Raheem Morris just said he was a no show. I was in the meeting, he wasn't there, so I consider him a no show. So I don't know what that's proving by not going. At the end of the day, like
It's not a good look. It's
no,
not a good look.
they have to trade him. They have to figure out a way to trade him out of there if they can, because it's going to be awkward all year.
But I
And for
don't.
Michael Penix, I don't want him. If I'm Michael Penix, I don't want him on the roster.
I
And if
don't
I
either.
have a bad game, I don't want people calling for Kirk Cousins because you're going to have hiccups as a young quarterback, right? So I want him off the team, and the Falcons got. I think it's in their best interest.
I blame the Falcons, though. I blame the Falcons. What in the world were you doing signing him to that contract?
Yeah, it goes to that. Where is Kirk Cousins? You may have stats to put you in the top 10, but in crunch time in games, in all fairness, people, who really can count on Kirk Cousins? Can I count on him in the fourth quarter, down by a touchdown, down by 9 points with 8 minutes to go in a playoff game? Can I feel like you can lead me to a victory? No, I got zero confidence. I can tell you I have all the confidence that Josh Allen can do it, that Patrick Mahomes can do it, that Jalen Hurts can do it. At 40-something million dollars a year, I don't have no confidence in that guy. So why, Falcons, would you give him that kind of money at that age, coming off an injury? What are you doing? You want to talk about wasting money to hurt your team?
It was, and especially the board did not fall during that draft. The board did not fall in an awkward way, especially with Penix. You didn't think Penix was going to go top 5. You just didn't. So if you selected him, that means that he was high on your list. He was high on your board.
Which you knew going into free agency.
Exactly.
Because you start that board well before free agency. You already had that board, right?
Exactly. Unless something crazy happened and somebody said, "Oh, I got to get Michael Penix and I'm going to trade all the way up." He wasn't going to, go in the top 3, top 5. He's your guy. You bring him in. You've heard everything you wanted. You're good. Why are you signing Cousins? What? But you reap what you sow. Right? That's what, and some teams get it, some teams don't. Right? And that's why some teams are where they are. Son Reddick, former New York Jet.
Oh God, have we heard this tune before? But what I will say, it's voluntary. He's a veteran, and so I'll leave it at that. He doesn't have to show. When it comes to the mandatory, if he doesn't show, then I'd be concerned if I'm Tampa Bay.
Okay.
It's not a good look either way, but I'm just saying.
It's not. It really isn't. It's not a good look because of this should be the year for image repair, damage control. What happened last year and the way things unfolded, it just wasn't good. It wasn't good for the Jets, but it also wasn't good for you. Right? At the end of the day, you're the one that kind of hurt yourself. Then when you finally did come into play, for the most part, you were non-existent. Right? You had a couple.
Another example of the Jets not paying a player and they don't produce.
Yeah.
But you're right. He's the one who hurts the stock. I mean, that's it. I mean, look what he got. He got a 1-year, $14 million contract. If he showed up for the Jets and played under the right contract, had a good year, and left in free agency, that wouldn't be a 1-year, $14 million contract.
That's right.
He should have shown up, and it just cost him in the long run. Bad advice, right? Players getting bad advice from wherever that's in your ear cost him a bigger contract.
Yes. So, all right, Stevie D. You
We
know,
forget one name. We forget one name.
well, yeah, we're not talking about that.
No, 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 no. Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, thank you. I thought you were coming to my 716. I'm not talking about that. I,
Yeah,
not
I was not going there, but the Pittsburgh Steelers.
yes, yes, yes. There's some guy named Watt. Some guy named Watt. I don't know. What?
You see, what? Oh, you
What?
say what?
um Actually, yeah, I we do need to talk about this because we talked before the podcast. So TJ is holding out. Or at least it's not officially a holdout. He just didn't show up to the voluntary mini camp, but he's looking to get his contract in place.
Just subtle statement.
What we were talking about before the show, this right now is not the Pittsburgh Steelers that we know. The Pittsburgh Steelers that we know would never have allowed something like that. Hey, Gregory, how are you?
How you doing, buddy? My man, right there.
All right, thank you. Tip of the cap. But the Pittsburgh Steelers would never, in the past, have allowed this to happen. There is something, and I don't know the intricacies of the Steelers front office. I don't. I just know that that is an organization that has been well run for decades. They are the model. They don't run through coaches like every other team. They just don't. They are the model of consistency, the model of bringing in solid players, right? Players may leave. Yes, they had an Antonio Brown, right? They had a Le'Veon Bell, but Le'Veon Bell wasn't really a bad guy with the Steelers. He was a guy saying, "Stop abusing my body," right, running me into the ground because I'd like to be able to continue. And you keep giving me the ball 400 times a year. That's all he was saying. I mean, let's be fair. But you look up and down. Yeah, Ben had his things, you know, alleged things that happened, right? But at the end of the day, that really was a model franchise. Now we look at where they are today. They just seem like dysfunction is following them left and right. And I'm not sure if it's front office GM. I'm not sure if it's Mike Tomlin. And I'll tell you, Stevie D, and I really want to get your opinion on this. We have sang the praises of Mike Tomlin up and down for years. 4 years. I do believe that when Mike Tomlin came in, people will call it an act or just his rhetoric or whatever you want to call it. But it was kind of brash, shocking, in your face. He told the media, he told us fans the way it is, what it is. We appreciated that. But then you started to see cracks. Antonio Brown, right? Sitting in his locker and live streaming the post game speech by the coach, right? And we've seen other things. Is it the front office or is it Mike Tomlin? How do you go from being on the Mount Rushmore of a franchise to now you have one of your best players, a face of the franchise, if you will, that is saying, "I'm not showing up." How is it that you are so thirsty for a 41-year-old quarterback now, or
42.
42?
42.
For a 42-year-old quarterback who really hasn't recovered from an Achilles injury, who is showing signs of diminished play, not the guy we saw 10 years ago, but yet you're so thirsty for him that you're so thirsty, you're going to pass up, doesn't have to be Shador. You're going to pass up quarterback after quarterback after quarterback in the draft because this is the guy you want. You passed up all of the free agent quarterbacks because this is the guy you want. This is the guy that's going to take you over the top.
I honestly, I don't know if that's Mike Tomlin's call. He's not the GM. And I think there's a delineation between the GM and the coach in that franchise, and I don't know what's going on. The pressure that they're feeling of not winning a playoff game in so long. I mean, think about this. And Justin Fields is still a wait and see product, right? Because he's still only 25 years old, Justin Fields. But Justin Fields was 4-2. You decided to go to Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson did not light up the scoreboard for the Steelers. He made a couple of nice deep passes throughout his, 11 games as a quarterback. But you saw what he put on tape in Denver. You saw what he put out at the end there in Seattle. And you have a 25-year-old quarterback and Justin Fields that cost you nothing. He's 4-2, could still be learning to grow within your offense, and you make the switch to Russell Wilson. Like, why would you do that? Is that Mike Tomlin doing that pressure? Is that a GM making that call of putting Russell Wilson in? Because this is not Mike Tomlin. How he coaches. It's just kind of bizarre. Like, I don't have a problem with them trading Pickens. I don't have a problem with that. He wasn't working out. He had the drops. Was falling out of favor there in Pittsburgh. I don't have a problem trading George Pickens, right? But now to be settled on Aaron Rodgers, where everybody said last year, and I'm not just saying that as a Jet fan, I'm just talking about the media. Aaron Rodgers is falling off. Aaron Rodgers is falling off. Look, as Jet fans, ad nauseum, there was times he's had receivers open in the middle of the field. He's holding the ball because he wants the big one. And then it doesn't happen. You take the sack. Or it's got to be thrown away. I granted, coming off the Achilles, he'll be better from that, being a whole year removed from it. But what we saw on tape, like Pittsburgh, this is the guy that you're going to say, I'm going in for 1 year. I mean, Terry Bradshaw went off.
Yes, he did.
Went off. Like, what are we doing here in Pittsburgh? Why are we going on a 1 year quarterback at 42 years old? How is that going to make us better? For 1 year and then he's gone?
Yes, he did.
To me, they missed the boat with Justin Fields because they had a 25-year-old quarterback that has so much more to give in football. I'm not saying because he's with the Jets. I'm just saying because he's 25 years old. Russell Wilson, where you going with Russell Wilson? So you knew he was going to go. Where you going with a 42-year-old quarterback? That's not making any sense.
You know where
he
you're
passed
going?
on quarterbacks in the draft.
You know where you're going, Stevie D? You're going 9-8. You're continuing the streak at 9-8. That's why you have to kind of look at Tomlin again. I agree with you. It feels like it's coming higher than Tomlin. But are we only concerned about having a legacy where we never had a losing season?
I wonder if the Steelers are panicking because of the Eagles' success in Pennsylvania. Right? The Eagles have always been the Eagles, but the Steelers have been the Steelers since the 70s, right? Now all of a sudden, the Eagles in Pennsylvania are winning championships. They're going to Super Bowls. They got talent all over the place. Could the Steelers be feeling? I know it sounds silly, right? It feels like the Yankees and Mets fighting over the back page over signing a free agent. But is there a threat there in the state of Pennsylvania that the Steelers are saying, we got to do? We're doing something. We got to steal the back page. I don't know, because Aaron Rodgers at 42 coming in doing a new system. Like, we saw what he did with the Jets. Like, no, you have to do it my way. We can't have motion. And I got to have my players around me and really kind of transform the organization. Why did he do that in Pittsburgh?
Hey, and what's he doing right now? Instead of learning with his teammates, he's unsigned.
Right. Unsigned family thing or whatever, personal issue. But is he going to try and pull? I mean, literally, is he trying to pull a Brett Favre here? Come in August for the Vikings? Because I think he wanted to go to the Vikings. I think he wants to go to Green Bay. I think that's what Pittsburgh gives him, is the opportunity to go back as a visiting player in Green Bay, what Brett Favre did. I think that's in his sick, twisted mind. That's what he wants. He wants payback for the Green Bay Packers.
How funny is it that they are playing into his hand and he is trying to stay in the shadow of Brett Favre who he vehemently was just upset and disgusted with the way that Favre treated him while he was a early player in the NFL. And he is reliving it. He's got to go to Minnesota. JJ, I'm sorry. You got to give it up because we've seen this play out years ago. Favre left, went to the Jets. Left the Jets, went to the Vikings. JJ, you're in the way right now of Aaron Rodgers going to the Vikings and restoring world order to the black and gold.
You're the conspiracy theorist guy, right? You love good conspiracy theories.
I do. I got a tinfoil hat on.
Did Aaron Rodgers sabotage the end of his career by opening his mouth talking about the owner's son so he can get cut by the Jets to have the potential to sign with the Vikings, but it didn't happen?
Yes, 100%. 100%. I'll buy that.
Because he started saying, well, if they want to cut me, they can cut me. If they don't want me here, they don't want me here. Right? Maybe the son's going to cut me. I don't know. Right? Like,
he knew Sam wasn't coming back. I think he was just a little iffy on the recovery of JJ McCarthy. So it's another daytime drama that we have coming out of the 412 coming out of the 412. Scott, who's one of he's a big time Steeler fan. He's a follower of the podcast. Scott, if you could chime in on this, because I mean this is your team. Tell us what's going on. I also have a cousin up there in Pittsburgh. I tried to ask him what was going on. He was so disgusted he didn't want to talk about it. So
and I don't blame the Steeler fans, right? Because you're in that mediocrity of 9-8. You don't get a high enough draft pick to make a real impact, let's say for a quarterback, right? You're in that you're above average, but you're not good enough to win a playoff because they haven't won a playoff game in forever, right? And so it is an interesting time in Pittsburgh. And to me, you're holding your franchise for a 42-year-old quarterback is odd to me. That's going to learn another new system. I think it's going to be disastrous for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, there may be some truth in it that he wanted to play for the Jets. There may be some truth there, but his actions in his mouth, to me, indicated he wanted out. Because when a player starts going to a podium and talking the way he's talking about an owner of a franchise, that Woody Johnson is worth billions of dollars. You think he's going to allow little old Aaron Rodgers to talk crap about him? I don't think so.
Woody with the bling.
Right, the bling, right?
He was iced out like Paul Wall. Let's be straight about that. So Gregory actually, he talks about Fields there, but he asked a question. And we weren't going to talk about this. Should the Bills pay star running back James Cook? I didn't want to talk about this, but since you asked the question, I will. Yes and no. Right? Yeah. Yes, they do need to pay him. No, not what he's asking for. Right? The unfortunate thing that's happened to both Cook and to the Bills is that you've had all these other running backs. And Stevie D, you and I talked about this the other day. You've had all these other running backs, McCaffrey and Barkley and Henry and others that have signed these massive running back deals.
Montgomery, I think, was the name you were looking for the other day.
Yes.
He got paid in Detroit. I think that's who you were talking about. Yeah.
You got these guys getting massive deals, and it's shifting the scale. Now, Cook originally came out and said, I want $15 million. Ooh, that's a little steep, right? That's what the top running backs are getting. And Cook, you are a very good running back, right? I love having you on the team. But you're not a 3-down back. That's a problem. When I look at Saquon, and Henry's not a 3-down back, but he can be. But when I look at these guys, they are definitely 3-down back. So there's strike one against you. Strike two is the offense that we play. Right? It doesn't really warrant having a guy like you for all 3 downs. Again, it's the numbers, right? Everybody eats type mentality. And then the problem that you have is others are chirping in your ear. You have your big brother who either he's chirping in your ear or you're letting him be your mouthpiece. The Bills should have a focal point of trying to sign James Cook. They really should. But they should have their number. We saw this play out on Hard Knocks. You have your number. You let Cook go out there and find his number. And right now, that gap is this big, Stevie D.
So
It,
where do you think the Bills are? Obviously, I know you're not in the room with your GM, but where do you think the Bills evaluate him on a per year basis?
probably 12 to 13 million.
So and he wants 15. It's to me that's not that large of a gap.
He started at
It's
15.
15. What is that? 17 because of
He,
the other guys.
I think he's 17
Okay.
or 18.
Okay. So if he's that high, yeah, then it won't. It's too far of a gap. Even if he's met in the middle, then it's at 15. He wins right, at 15. But again, at $15 million, to your point, the offense that you run with Josh Allen, do you really want to spend $15 million on a running back?
It's a very, very, very tough situation. And Gregory followed up. Do you trade him? Well, too late. It's too late. You're
Because
not
you couldn't replace him in the draft to make an impact this year, right?
going to.
So
And you lose out on him next year, right? Unless you franchise, but no team is going to give you the value. If you would have done it this year, and you said you drew your line in the sand before the draft, you said James Cook is up, then any team would have been jumping all over him and saying, "We'll redo the deal. Here's whatever pick." Now, I'd rather just, you know, run him in like you did Le'Veon Bell, right? If he's going to come back and play, you get the ball 400 times. You will become a 3-down back for me. Trust me, right? And I will run you. I hate to see it in this way. I really do. If I'm James Cook, sometimes, James, and listen to me clearly, sometimes you have to take a little to get a lot. You are going for the big prize now. You want that big windfall. And I get it, right? You want to get that bag. If things work out, nothing's a guarantee. If things work out, you come down a few million on that. You have an outstanding year this year. The team does everything that some of the experts are projecting. I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx it. But you look at the schedule, the way the schedule lays out. You look at all the home games that you have, all the road games that you have, the level of or this uh, the strength of schedule for each of those. You're going to be in prime time. Your name is going to be rising and rising and rising. Your endorsement deals are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you cap it off with what you hope to cap it off with, again, not saying because I don't want to jinx it, but if you do, your bag is going to be twice the bag of what you would get being a free agent going out there and playing for the Atlanta Falcons or playing for the Arizona Cardinals. Sure, you got an extra few $1 million there, but you're not getting the same level of endorsements that you do as a champion. If I can see Mark Andrews doing endorsement deals that are nationwide, could you imagine what a James Cook would? The last name of Cook itself,
right, anything in the food industry.
you are set. So sometimes you have to take a little to get a lot. James, I hope you're listening to me with that. So we'll see. We'll see. I didn't want to talk about it. I still don't want to talk about it. I don't like the fact that you're not there. But maybe you're not there because you're getting fitted for your tux or you had to go buy a wedding gift, right? I'm going to make the excuse for you. Coach, sorry I'm not there. 17 is about to get married. I have to go do some things to prepare for the wedding. I'm helping chip in on the honeymoon, whatever it is. It's not because of my contract. Just putting that out there. I like that one, Stevie D. I do. I'm running with that. All right. So this is going to wrap this one up. Again, first of all, we do apologize for the fact that we were on an unstable platform this evening that
was wild.
kind of gave us issues, and we're clicking and ultimately doing what techs do. We hit reboot, and I think the second reboot allowed us to get back up and running. So we do apologize. Again, as we always say, please don't hesitate to reach out to us during the week or even during the show, like Gregory did and some of the others have in the past. You can also hit us up at mailbag@owsports.net. Hit me up at Vince C at owsports.net and Stevie D at owsports.net. Follow us on any one of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X. Rewatch episodes on YouTube. You'll probably rewatch the episode of where we were complaining about the platform. And I will continue to rail against the platform because that doesn't make any sense. You have one job. And you know what time your job starts. 7:55.
Don't make an IT person mad. Do not do that.
7:55, you need to have all those bugs done and you're ready to roll. And then 10 o'clock, you're good to go back to testing, do whatever you need to do. Regression tested, all of that.
CICD, right?
Exactly.
Come on.
All right. This may become a whole nother show. We start throwing those acronyms out there. People are like, what is that? Right. And then, of course, reaching out to those that are interested in sponsorship. We have sponsorship opportunities available for the show. Certainly send us a note again, Vince C at owsports.net, Stevie D at owsports.net. And we'd love to have conversations, see what we could do together as a partnership. Aside from that, Stevie D, that's going to wrap this one up. Again, be prepared. Be prepared, ladies and gentlemen, because that Hall of Fame show is going to be a doozy, right? Be prepared. Again, if you have people that you think should or should not be in the Hall of Fame, send us some notes. We're going to try to do some research on Steve Tasker, see if we can find out if we can get the truth out of that one. There's a couple people that actually I'm going to ping later on this week to see if they know, they should know.
Well, one of them who's been on the show a couple of times actually put out a post congratulating him, and that's what threw me off. So, how did that happen? And a former player, we'll share that name at a later date when we do the Hall of Fame show. But I was surprised because I think that's where I first saw it. Was he dropped as a former teammate? I was like, oh wow, he made it. And then February came and Steve was on the podium. So what?
Right. So we'll look to see what happens and what goes on with that. But with that, Stevie D, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good show. Thank you. And so as we wrap this one up, I'm Vince. That's Stevie D. We'll talk to you soon.
What you gonna listen to? Oh, love on this sports. What you gonna listen to? Oh, love on this sports. Sit back, relax. Vince and Stevie B are gonna break it down about the team from their hometown.
And there he goes, inside the 10, the 5. Oh, the play of the year. That's a jet touchdown. Garrett Wilson strikes.
You gonna laugh, you gonna cry, but these two are ride or die.
61-yard try for the lead. It is Owens. He's got it. He's got it. Here is Hall. Shot out of a cannon, and he will score.
They'll take you all the way to the Super Bowl or the exhibition game. Stay with them all the way to the Hall of Fame.
And the AP Most Valuable Player presented by Invisalign is Josh Allen.
Be good, do good. God bless, and go Bills.